And what do you think about gin bottling strength? I always think it's an interesting one. It's like every brand has to have its own strength, and probably we've run out of decimal options now, so there must be some repetitions out there in the marketplace. And of course, some brands are changing, not pointing any fingers, Tanqueray. It's such a weird one because of all the spirits, it's kind of the most pointless to have as precise bottling strength because gin is always mixed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, very few people, apart from people making gin or people going to gin distilleries or doing gin masterclasses, ever get around to tasting gin neat. It's always diluted down either in a cocktail or in a gin and tonic.
I do so half agree with that. When I had Burley's gin, we had 3 products, but they all had the same botanicals in. But 2 of the products were exactly the same, just at different strengths. But it was quite interesting using the export strength of 47% ABV compared to exactly the same product, but bottled at 40% ABV. The flavours were very different. And I take your point that people don't drink gin neat in the main. But even in a martini, the flavour difference was still there.
Yeah. But they were what was the difference in strength? 7%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a pretty sort of significant difference. Yeah. And so in a martini, you're going to end up, once you've had the dilution of vermouth, they're going to be still 5% difference probably. So definitely, undeniably different. It's when it gets down to decimals where I'm a bit like, come on.
No, I agree. And so that's where I do 100% agree with you. There has to be a really, really good reason to move away. Well, actually, I say that. I wouldn't bottle less than 40% ABV.
Sure.
The legal minimum is 37.5. But people, if you're paying, because you do small volumes as a craft distiller, you have to work on larger margins than the big boys have to. And so people need to have a reason to pay that extra money. And frankly, if you drop below 40, then one of those reasons disappears. And some of that might be snobbery and so on. But actually, I'm a snob. Obviously, I go along with that as well. So 40% would be my standard. And then I always say, particularly in the UK where duty rates are quite high, there has to be a good reason to move to a higher strength. Because the amount of duty you pay is directly related to the amount of alcohol in the bottle. And if you put it up to just 43% ABV, which doesn't sound a huge difference, although it is, I mean, it's nearly 10%, then the duty increases by 10% as well. And people say, yeah, but the duties, that's only 50p a bottle or whatever it is. But by the time the wholesalers put their margin on, the retailers put their margin on, and the bars put their margin on, that 50p is all of a sudden 3 or 4 quid a bottle.